Well, hey everybody, and welcome back to Living Power, your online Bible study where we are walking through the Bible in a year. It is great to see you today. I was very excited to be with you today and talk about this lesson. We're in 1 Samuel, and we're looking at Saul, and he is king of Israel. And the lesson today I've entitled The Sin of Impatience. It was real easy for me to pick out that one main topic of our reading. And I just want to talk to you a little bit today about being impatient. And we're going to look at Saul and one thing that he did in his impatience that cost him the kingdom. And it was a huge mistake. We're going to talk about why that was a mistake today. Before we do that, I just feel like we should take just a minute and let me encourage you and thank you for being a part of this study. Thank you for your faithfulness and your dedication to, not necessarily to me, but to your search this year as you seek the Lord and as you commit to read the Bible from cover to cover. You know, it is quite an accomplishment to do that in a year. There will be times where you feel stress and pressure. It may be difficult for you to keep up with your reading, but I want to encourage you and tell you that is very normal. Do the best that you can. The videos are there online. You can go back and look at the archives. I was convicted this week, and I have a confession to make, that someone asked me in the class, how do you study and how do you prepare the materials for the class? And my first response was, well, I have a lot of study tools, and I have some software that has literally hundreds of books, and it helps me quickly locate and research and find information. And that was my answer. And I don't know if it was that night or the next morning, but God said to me, was that the best answer that you could come up with? And I said to God, well, what do you mean? What was I supposed to say? And he said, well, what about me? What about us? And I realized that for the last at least week, maybe 2 weeks, if I'm really honest about it, I've been trusting that my time in preparing the lesson and recording and bringing these lessons to you would kind of all come to pass because I have great study tools and I have great resources. And I realized that week that I was preparing the lessons for you in Judges, maybe one of the reasons why I didn't care for the reading so much, and it seemed to be more difficult. It seemed to be more work that week in preparing the lessons than it has in other times. I thought it was just the text, but God revealed to me that it was because I was not fully leaning on Him to be my source of revelation, that I was relying on my study books and other tools, and I had just I had gotten out of my good habit of praying consistently over the lesson, praying before I tape, and I was convicted that I needed to start doing that again. So, you can probably tell the difference in my lessons when I do that, when I cover it in prayer and pray before I start, than when I just am impatient and just rush in and try to get it finished. So that's my confession of impatience today, and I wonder if you have any impatience in your life also. So let's go ahead and start with the lesson today. Yesterday, Saul was declared king. And today we begin to see the insights into the relationship between kings and prophets. And kings can tend to be very impatient. Kings can tend to not like the message that the prophet brings, and they can choose to listen to the prophet, or they can choose to completely ignore what they're saying to their own peril. The prophet today, Samuel, is telling Saul that your kingdom will be torn from you, and you will not be able to be king forever. And certainly he was saying that your descendants will not continue to rule after you. So let's start out today as the reading did with King Saul's family tree. And I have a little bit of a cough. I've had it for a couple of days. I've tried to cover it so it wouldn't be distracting to you in the videos. But if I cough a little bit, I'm sorry. I'll try not to. Just pray for me that this, whatever I've got, goes away quickly. I always wondered as I was starting to prepare for the Bible study, I was thinking, wow, if I do a year's worth of videos, surely I'm going to get, feeling bad some of that time. How in the world would I do a video if I was feeling bad? So we'll pray that my voice holds out and I'm able to do this. Okay, Saul has 3 sons, Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchi-Shua. The one I want you to remember of all those 3 is Jonathan. Jonathan actually becomes David's best friend, and that's a real sweet relationship there. Saul also has 2 daughters, Merab and Michal, and it's either Michal or Michelle, but I think it's Michal. And Michal actually becomes David's wife, so let's watch her as we go through this also. And here's the situation we find ourselves today. Okay, Saul is going to battle against the Philistines, and he has 3,000 men. 1,000 are with him in Michmash. Don't you love that name, Michmash? I think that's a fun name to say. 1,000 are in Bethel, and 1,000 are with his son Jonathan in Gibeah. Jonathan went ahead and attacked. We don't know if he was told to attack or if he just decides to attack. He attacks first at Geba, and the news spreads quickly. The Philistines respond. It says in our Bible with 3,000 men, but in one of the commentaries I read, it said that in the original translation it wasn't clear, the number wasn't clear, and it could have actually been 30,000. So what we need to understand is the Philistines have iron tools that are stronger and more powerful than what the Israelites have, and they have a whole lot more men than the Israelites do. When the Israelites see them coming with these iron weapons, they retreat. Whoa, I'm not doing this. I am out of here. And they retreat. Saul gets word of this, and he is very concerned. He is supposed to wait 7 days. And the origination of that is, you remember when Samuel left Saul before, and he said, in 7 days I'll come and meet you, and I'll sacrifice the offering. That was back at 1 Samuel 10, verse 8. It's been 7 days and Samuel is not here. What would you do? I mean, let's give Saul a break for just a minute. What would you do? You have 600 men left. Your men are retreating. The Philistines have more power. They have more men. They have stronger weapons. And it's 7 days. This guy Samuel said he was coming. You've got to do something. You feel pressure from all sides. You've got to act. What do you think our government would do? Well, I don't think they would have waited. They would have gone in and attacked. So Saul says, well, I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and sacrifice the offerings myself. And then I'm going to go in and attack. Well, what was so bad about Saul sacrificing the offerings? After all, offering a sacrifice before a holy war was very customary. It was very normal. Well, the reason it was so wrong is because he did it himself. And there were very strict laws. Remember in Deuteronomy, the priests were to offer the sacrifices, and they were to do it in a certain way. And you couldn't just offer a sacrifice wherever you wanted. You couldn't just worship God wherever you wanted. There were specific rituals that God had established himself. God is a holy God, and he will declare how it is he wants to be worshipped. So Samuel finally gets there. He gets there when he says he's going to get there. It's just late on the 7th day, and Saul couldn't wait he couldn't wait a couple more hours because he came on that day, the last day. And Samuel confronts him, and Saul has 3 major objections. Did you get those? When confronted by Samuel, Saul says he blames Israel for retreating. He only has 600 men left. Second thing, he blames Samuel. You were late. What was I supposed to do? You were late. Third thing, he blames the Philistines for being too large and too powerful. Samuel said, this is it. I think he'd probably been praying for Saul for years. And this is it. No more prophetic guidance from him. And Samuel does not come back and give him any prophetic guidance. Only Jonathan and Saul had the proper swords with which to fight. The others probably had clubs, slingshots, and their bronze tools. So Samuel prophesies that his kingdom is not going to continue. It means Jonathan won't be king. And he just couldn't wait, and his kingdom was torn from him. Now, it might seem a bit harsh, but just think about the sin of impatience and how that can be a sin, and how what Saul did was very wrong in the eyes of the Lord. So Saul didn't have time for faith. He calls in verse 37 the people together, ask God, should we fight? But he doesn't wait long enough for the answer. So he tries to do right, but his heart really isn't in it. He makes the sacrifice himself. He is impatient. He doesn't have time to wait for God's answer. So here's my question to you. You know what I'm going to ask you today, don't you? Here's my question, and it's a question I have to ask myself too. Do we have time to ask God and wait for his answer? So I thought about some times in my life where I have not always had time. I've not taken time to ask God and wait for his answer. Whenever I buy a car, it seems like, they're just pressuring me, and I just feel like the deal I have to make right now, and I just can't wait. I've bought some cars that I probably shouldn't have because I didn't ask the Lord if that was the right car for me. Or maybe I did ask him, but it was on the way to the store or it was on the way home. Well, this was a great deal, so this is the car you wanted me to have, right? I don't think God honors that type of asking. Anything on sale, for that matter, can tempt me to not ask God, is this how you want me to spend my money, and just go ahead and buy something. Taking jobs when you need a job. Everything looks great about this. Boy, it's met all my stipulations. Should this person be my boyfriend? Should this person be my girlfriend? Should I marry this person? Boy, those are big decisions. Certainly should be consulted of the Lord before taking a step like that. So I was thinking, what are the 5 most likely situations we're tempted not to ask God? And I came up with some, and I would love to hear what yours would be. So here are my likely situations we're tempted not to ask God. Number 1, when we think we have all the answers. We don't need to ask him a question we think we know. But the Bible says that God's ways are not our ways, and that there's evil in a man's heart, and we can't possibly sometimes even come up with the right answer, even when we think we do. Number 2, when it's on sale. And you feel pressure not to ask God, but just to go ahead and rush in. So if you're thinking of buying something today, I'm going to tell you to hold off. For some reason, the Lord wants you to hold off and ask him. It might be saving you a lot of pain and heartache later on. Next, when we're told, act now or the offer is gone tomorrow. Don't be pressured into making a decision without consulting the Lord first. Number 4, we're tempted when we think God will say no, and we really want to do it anyway. But the only reason God is saying no is because he wants to save you of pain and heartache, because there's something better down the road. We just have to wait for it. And 5, when we think the situation is so good that he must have ordained it to be, and all we have to do is go out there and get it. Well, that might be so, but we should ask him first. Saul had substituted saying instead of doing. He was all talk. Saul had substituted making excuses instead of making confessions. Remember all those excuses he made with Samuel. Saul had substituted making apologies instead of obedience. He thought he could just sacrifice, and Samuel is going to say, or he said, it's so much better just to be obedient the first time. And Saul had substituted blaming instead of being personally accountable for his own actions. So I want to leave you today with this thought. What is the situation in which you are most tempted to not ask God before you proceed? The devil knows what that situation is. Do you? And I would invite you to post that on a comment today. And if you feel comfortable, or if not, just think about it. What is the situation? And watch for those situations. And be alert to those so that you can inquire of the Lord next time before you act. Well, I hope this has been a blessing to you. It's been my pleasure to see you today. Shalom. Blessings to you. See you tomorrow.